Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Sports Wrap. Guess what? Can you count to two, Dennis?
Yeah, one, two,
Good.
three, four. Perfect.
No, you don't need one, two, three, four. It's one, two. You and me tonight.
One, one, two. Okay.
There you go. All
Well,
right.
I
Well,
was
anyway, Mike Santos is out of town on a special assignment, and Cody Smith feel bad for him. He's only at the Ducks game tonight. So, Mike, guess what? You got myself, and you got Washington Capitals legend Dennis Maruk in the house. Everybody
all
here on
right.
Sports Wrap.
Hello, 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 hello. All good.
And Mr. Maruk, do me a favor. Put your book up. I'm going to promote that at the beginning,
That
sir.
book, that baby right here. There you
Now,
go. All
get it
right.
in front of the camera. Dennis Maruk, I can't see it. That up, boy. Guess
How's
what? He
that?
wrote. That's even better. He wrote one. And where can you find it, Dennis?
On Amazon, of course. Where can you find anything else? Amazon.
Yeah, tell me
Dennis
about it.
Maruk. I'll just pull up my name. Dennis Maruk with two N's on Dennis.
There you go. All right. Well, he's got a book.
Unforgettable. The
He's got.
unforgettable story of hockey's forgotten 60 goal man. There you go.
There you go. And a guy that belongs in the Hall of Fame. He's in our Hall of Fame. And I'm not going to stop talking about him getting in the Hall of Fame until he gets there. All right. So
Absolutely.
there we go. I'm loud. Had enough time to have enough energy today. Have a busy agenda today. Let's get to it, Dennis. Okay, you ready?
Yeah,
Rapid fire. Then again, there's only two of us. Everything rapid fire. Matthew Schaefer wins the Calder Trophy, the NHL's top rookie for 25-26 season. The Isles Phenom set the league record for most points by an 18-year-old defenseman at 59. Some thoughts about Matthew Schaefer winning the coveted award.
I met Mr. Schaefer last year in a golf tournament in Oakville. I think he believed he's from Hamilton. What a gentleman. He seemed like he was 25, 26 years old. A mature young man, and it just goes to show how well he played. He had 23 goals, 59 points, so he had 36 assists. Yeah, their team was okay. He was as an 18-year-old on the ice, he kind of controlled the game. He moves the puck really well, skates well, and that's where sometimes you got to start your team to be successful. You got to start with some good young defensemen or good moving defensemen that can be involved in the play offensively as well as play well defensively. And I believe that his mom, I looked up, his mom passed away of breast cancer in 2024. And I think for him to win this Calder Trophy, she was definitely looking down and would be very proud of him.
Well, the Islanders are going to have a great player to build around for a long time. And when you can have a young 18-year-old player like this guy here win an award like that, things are looking up over on Long Island for sure. All right, let's continue on. Obviously, a lot of coaching news to go along with some Stanley Cup playoff action. It's unfortunate. Amazingly enough, though, Dennis, it seems like a lot of the coaching changes are overshadowing the playoffs, and they don't, unlike other leagues where they like to keep the coaching stuff on the back burner, having it during the playoffs. That's not the case with the National Hockey League. Nevertheless, the Leafs fired head coach Craig Berube. Toronto missed the playoffs for the first time since 2016, 28th in the NHL. He was 84, 62, and 18 the regular season. I actually wonder whether Berube's actually be relieved to be out of that situation because I don't think a lot of this falls on him. But nevertheless, what are your thoughts about the decision for the Leafs to move on?
Well, he did have some success in St. Louis, of course. He won the
Right.
Stanley Cup in 2019. And it was kind of the team that he built with Mr. Armstrong, I believe. But in Toronto, I don't know if he had the right players for him to coach the team. I think he had maybe too many of the what do you say it wealthy players in the league that were
Right.
paid a lot of money, and there's only one puck out there. Their bottom six were not the strongest, and when they did bring in their other guys in the trade deadline, this just didn't seem to gel coaching wise
Right.
and playing wise, player wise. So, when you bring in a new GM and a new president of hockey operations, they're going to want to bring in their guys. So you know that time with the Leafs was not going to, was going to be very short, and it was. With the team uh, right now. So I don't know if it was mainly his fault. A lot of times you can't get rid of the 20 players. You gotta look at the coach, and maybe some of the
Right.
players didn't like communicated well with the coach, and it got to the management about that, and things. Well, we better make a change, and I think that's what the whole situation maybe was Tree Living's fault for the players he brought in. Of course,
Right.
they fired him. They got rid of him, and now they got rid of the coach. So we'll see. I mean, he'll end up somewhere. I call that the vicious circle. Once you get in, you're never gonna. You just go around a circle from team to team. But I did mention my name in the coaching on Facebook. There, they had a list of coaches, and I did put my name in there.
Ah,
you know, as
well,
coach.
let me tell you, you
But my wife says, "Hey, what are you laughing for?" She goes, I says, "I'm 70 years old. They're not going to hire a 7-year-old coach that never played for the Toronto Maple Leafs." And because they had mentioned Dougie Gilmore's name, they mentioned Wendell Clark's name, Bruce Boudreau, they mentioned his name about coaching.
right.
I said, "Geez, why don't I put in Dennis Maruk's name? You know, he's was successful and he can coach." So, there we go.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what you have in Toronto. Number one, okay, Mike Babcock couldn't win there, and he's a Stanley Cup winning coach. And Brendan Shanahan. That's not an easy job, Dennis. That's a really high pressure cooker job, and
Well,
arguably the
I
largest media market in Toronto. And not only that, okay, if they're not, and they have a 1 to 67, that makes it even tougher, Dennis.
do you know Mike Futa?
Who?
Mike Futa, Futa,
No, I
Michael
can't.
Futa.
I
He
can't
was
say I
the,
did.
he was the assistant GM with the Los Angeles Kings for many years, and he's from Toronto. And
Okay,
he put his name in there and had interviewed for Toronto for the GM job.
really.
And he was asked a couple times when they hired Dubious. Mike was asked to interview, and Mike just said, "It's a job to get hired, to get fired."
Yeah,
And I think different teams, you got a different situation where you're hired as a GM or hired as a coach or whatever. Your lifespan's a little different. Your pressure's a little different. And I think in Toronto, I hate to say that because you don't want that to happen, and you want
right.
good people in there. And I just think it's a job to get hired to get fired.
And by the way, before Toronto can call you, they have to go through me because you're under contract with me anyway. So really are. I mean,
I like that. Okay.
yeah, they
Uh,
have to go through me. I'm
you
your
be
agent.
you be my agent. That's right.
I am your agent. Hell, I'm marketing your darn book. I'm marketing you. Everybody talks about Don Cherry and Ron McLean. Get rid of those two guys. I got Scott Morgan Roth and Dennis from the Motor City Mad Mother. I don't care about
There
them.
you go.
Your
Perfect.
property of my network, though. They got all roads through me to get to you. Because my goal is to get you to Toronto anyway, but in the Hall of Fame, not play for the team that belongs in the Hall of Shame. How do you like that analogy?
Oh, well, I
Uh,
know.
you,
I've
you
heard
will.
that before. Hall of Shame. I've heard that. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of that one anyhow. Don Cherry, Ron McLean, get out of the
Yeah.
way. You got Scott Morgan Roth and Dennis Brooke on the big show.
And
All
and
right.
and and just to say, Berube had a pretty good, not too bad record: 84, 62, and 18. The 2 years he was coaching with Toronto, and I think it would have been a lot better if he had a better bottom six.
Yeah, I think so. I think he certainly, in my opinion, deserved a better fate than he ended up getting there for sure. All right, let's continue on. The
Okay.
NHL suspended has announced a 6-game suspension for Charlie McAvoy starting next season for slashing Zach Benson towards the end of Game 6. Is that the right amount of games?
Did you see it?
I actually saw a clip of it.
Yeah. Well, I like what they comment about when they say baseball bat like. He swung pretty hard at him. I don't know. I think during my time, during when I was playing and the years I played 75 to 89, a lot of guys swung their sticks at each other and maybe got some slashing penalties or whatever. And that might the way the game is today, you got to be you got to have a little bit of control situation.
Okay.
And I think during our time it was a little different. Now it's you got to control your actions. You got to be able. You can't
Right.
like attempt to injure somebody or someone like that. And I think it really is today, and they're really trying to police that. And they gave him what 6 games, and if they were in the playoffs, he would have probably sat out a few or whatever. But it'll start next year, and
Right.
those 6 games will be up, and he'll be back in playing, no problem. Those 6 games will go fast, and he's a big part of their defense crew. So he'll be back, but he'll be on a red flag though, because when you've done it once or twice, and
Yeah.
then you do it again, the suspense is going to be even longer. So right now he's like it's like being on going through the border. He's red flagged. There's no doubt about it. And you hate to say that because he is a good defenseman. He is a good hockey player, and Boston loves him, and he's perfect there. But now he's got to be more careful.
Yeah, no, you got a bullseye there, Dennis. You cannot develop a track record of making
No,
those kinds of dirty plays. Once you do, and the
yeah,
league gets wind of that stuff, in my opinion, that is just sad news. I've seen
yeah,
it, Dennis, in so many sports where once you develop a rap sheet, is what they call it, then they're going to, if you think that suspension was 6 games, it becomes 10, 12, 14 later on. And the fact of the matter is, you are 100% right, Dennis. He gets
right,
it 6 games at the beginning of the year. Okay, you wash those, you still have 82 games. So if he plays in 70 to begin with, you're still going to be okay. But nevertheless, 6 games is
right,
what it is, and that's what he's going to have to do. I can get into other examples. I don't really need to do that.
right.
The one example I have would be involved with baseball that most of the people in our audience would even know, and I'm not going to bother for the sake of keeping the flow going. But anyways, let's continue on. Obviously, breaking news: the Columbus Blue Jackets have signed Charlie Coyle to a 6-year, $36 million contract through the 2031-32 season. Well, Columbus obviously solidifying a big part of its future, Dennis.
You said you were my agent, right?
Yeah, I am your agent.
Okay, well, I think it's his first time. He's been bounced around a couple teams, and it was his first time. I think he had 20 goals,
Okay.
20 goals and 38 assists for 58 points, and they're paying him 6 million a year.
Yeah.
He got he got 6 years, 36 million. I'm questioning that. I believe he's a okay player. He did. This is one of I think it's his best year, and sometimes that happens to players. They have what they call their career round in golf or their career year in a sport. And I think that he just walked into a situation there where he had a good season, and the team is saying, "Well, we can't let him go. We got to sign him," and they gave him 6 years at 6 million average. I believe that's a little high for him. I would say he's more of a 5 million or 4.5 or 5 million a year. And they've got him till 2031, 32 season. So I question that whole issue,
Okay.
but that's the way, and that's why there's lots of money in the game.
All right, so now that you set me up so brilliantly, geez, you really set me up for this. I was
I
waiting for
had
you to
30
do this.
I
God
had
damn it.
30 I had 30 goals when I was 19 years old, and I got
I know.
I
Let me
got
finish.
30,000. You know how much I made? $30,000.
Okay, let me finish.
Wait a minute here.
You
He
have
get
set.
he
Wait,
get 20 goals, and he's getting 6 million, and I only got 30,000.
you listen. You have set me up so well for this. Dennis, you realize what you just did? You made some big progress in the broadcast business. I'm telling you. Let me set you up, Mr. Maruk. Okay,
All
please
right,
let me do it. I'm your agent. I'm a
all right.
lot of things for you at this point. Okay, we're gonna be beating each other. All right. With that said, Mr. Maruk, how much would you be worth yourself, Dennis Maruk, and I'm your agent? Okay, remember that. I know you don't forget nothing, anyways. How much would you be worth in today's game?
I'd say 8 to 9 million.
I'll take it. I'll take 9 instead because,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'll even push for 10. Okay, we'll try to get him down to 9 and 8 because that's how negotiations, I believe, work right now.
Mm-hmm,
So 10,
mm-hmm.
we're gonna start everything with Dennis Brooke at $10 million, people. And
He's
I'll tell
out.
you what, if you hire him as a coach, I'll settle for 6. Uh,
Perfect.
Move
Good
over
job.
Don Cherry. Move over Ron McLean. You got us. All right. I'm being a hockey night Canada guy in Detroit. I know these people anyway. All right, let's continue the narrative. The NHL GM of the Year finalists include Bill Guerin, Minnesota Wild, Chris McFarland, Colorado Avalanche, Pat Verbeek, Anaheim Ducks. Who do you like? Which one do you think is going to end up winning the award?
I, you know, the Wild are unbelievable. Colorado just been outstanding as a team, and the Ducks. I really like the Ducks.
Do you?
I like what they've done, what Pat's done. Like you don't see a lot of their team, you don't hear a lot of them during the regular season, unless you live in in Anaheim, whatever. But um, I've watched them, and they got some good young players, and they're playing well. I would have to. I would give my Billy. Billy Guerin got the Hughes trade, and all that was pretty good, and they got some good players there, but they just got beat out. And I would say Pat. Pat. My vote would be Pat for Beek.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll double you up a bit. I'll tell you my reason for doing it, Dennis. Number one, he brought in Joel Quenneville, and what do you think Joel Quenneville's done? He's done a remarkable job. Anybody could have had Joel Quenneville the last few years. Anybody could have had him, but the Ducks decided to gamble on him, and that move has paid some dividends for Anaheim for sure. So hats off to Joel. I don't know who's going to get the Coach of the Year. I would give him consideration, but he probably won't. But I'll just be saying that press for me for the sake of this topic, okay, would get it. But the big wild card is the fact they brought in Joel Quenneville to settle things down out there.
Oh, definitely. He's look what he did in Chicago. Even though
Exactly.
even though they had some off ice stuff and whatever stuff going on, but still, he was available to teams, and then they took a risk, and they hired him, and look what he's done.
Worked out.
Coach is a big part. Putting the right players together and mixing the lines up, putting the right power play, right penalty killing, and all those kind of things. But and that's his job, and he's done. He knows the game extremely well.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the risk reward factor. That was a low risk move and the reward is high. And Joel Quenneville has done a good job bringing Anaheim back to respectability, and Pat Verbeek has done an excellent job. And I
He'd
guess
be my
I'm
he'd be my vote for coach of the year, Quenville. No doubt about it.
yeah, me too. Exactly. You know
Yeah.
what? Now I've had you on the show as my co-host a long time, right? GMTA. You remember what that stands for?
Good man.
I think it's
Come on. Come
huh?
on. Say it again. Good.
GMTA, Mister Maruk.
GMCA, right?
TA. GMTA.
GMTA.
What is it?
No,
You don't know?
no,
Great
no.
minds think alike. You better get that. I'm going to text it to you.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah,
All right.
don't worry.
We've
I'll
already
text it
said
to
that
you.
a few times. I'm going to write that down so I remember. Great minds think alike. So I will always remember GMTA. I thought
Yeah,
it was
there you
just
go.
Toronto.
And make sure
Yeah.
that you reference the fact that Mr. Maruk, your agent, is the one who
I
educated you
know.
on
My
this.
agent's the one that got it. I know.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, I would say.
great minds think alike. Yeah,
Yeah, that's exactly.
GMTA.
There you go. So that's where Joel Quenneville stands with the GMTA philosophy. Continue the narrative.
Perfect.
All right,
Perfect.
The Sedin twins are taking on a bigger role with the Canucks. They've been working in player development as special advisors. Now Sedin and Henrik Sedin and Daniel Sedin are moving into the operations role. Well,
Right.
these are there's definitely uh, two people that belong to be where they are. It's these guys. What are your thoughts about the Sedins taking on a bigger role?
Hey, there's commercials out there with gum on twins and all that?
Right.
Yeah, Doubleman or whatever it is. Those guys remind me of the Twins commercial
Okay.
on TV. Sorry, I'm not trying to cut them up or anything like that. They
That's all
were
right.
both very good, strong hockey players. They're from Sweden, right? And I believe their position there were as you mentioned special advisors to the. For some reason, that Canuck organization has gone goofy. Sorry to say that.
Yeah.
Crazy. I don't know what's going on there with the Rutherford and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I guess they did just recently hire a new GM too, right? So and now they give now they're co-presidents of hockey operation. Both of them. Why would they be co-presidents? Why don't you make one of them president, put the
Right.
other one in another position? Now they have control. It gives them much more influence over the Canucks hockey decisions and organizational direction. So they're kind of putting the sending twins into it's their ball, their hand here, and you run with it. You run with our hockey team. You make it a great hockey team. And what I think is, I think they'll do a good job. I don't know. They're inexperienced, but they're good hockey players. But I think they'll probably bring in more Swedes. There'll be more European hockey players in Vancouver. You wait, watch what happens in the draft that's coming up and all that in trades. I think they'll try and build their team around more European hockey players.
I wouldn't be surprised. Well, you know what? Here's the thing I want to ask you, okay? And that's this. Jimmy Rutherford, all he did was win everywhere. And why could he not solve the riddle in Vancouver? Listen, it doesn't take a crystal ball to figure out Jimmy Rutherford is a heck
Right.
of a
Yeah.
administrator. And I actually met him many years ago when he was at the Red Wings as a goaltender. That was way back in the day at Olympia Stadium. But Jimmy Rutherford's a great mind, and he's won Stanley Cup. Why did it not work out with Jimmy Rutherford in Vancouver? That boggles me.
You look at yeah, you're right. They've had some goaltending issues. They've had, and
Right.
he's a goaltender. You would be surprised there. They've had some injuries to some key. Demko got hurt, and I think he was supposed to be their number one guy, but he's been getting hurt. And then there you got guys like Peterson. Who knows where that guy's at? I mean, being paid a lot of money. They've had changes in that organization, that lineup. What's his name's there? Bowser, whatever. Bowser. He's a good hockey player, but there just doesn't seem to be some stability there. And I don't know if it's Jimmy's fault or the owner's fault or whatever, but there just doesn't seem to be good hockey there.
Yeah, it blows me away. Jimmy Rutherford didn't become stupid overnight. Damn it. He didn't
No,
take it
I
downhill at
know.
all.
Well, now I don't know what his role is now. Nobody seems to know. He's moving out of it. He'd probably be some advisor, whatever. And I think he just wants to retire. To tell you the truth.
I don't blame him. Well, what's there left for Jimmy Rutherford to accomplish anyway, Dennis?
Yeah, right.
That's my point. Good point. Great minds think alike again.
Yeah,
Right, there
right.
we go.
GMTA.
Yeah, I'm going to keep drilling that into you. I don't think you're so smart. I won't have to drill it into you too much, just a few
Yeah.
more times. All right, let's continue on. The NHL and the NHLPA announced that the salary cap range for
Oh
2026,
my God.
the new upper limit in this thing is actually going to be up to $20.8 million. So again, I emphasize the words upper limit, $20.8 million. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I don't know much about what's going on with that, but I do know that, in 25-20 they had 95.5 million salary cap, right?
Right,
Next year is 104 million.
right.
And then the year 27-28 is going to be 113. Where's it going to? Why
Yeah,
does it have to keep going up? I know inflation. Why can't they just settle on a certain number and stay with it?
right.
All this cap is tied to the hockey revenues and all that under the NHL collective bargaining agreement with the NHLPA. I mean, there's so much money. These guys are making so much money that
Right.
they really, really don't need to keep going up every year. And I just don't get it. It's
No,
going to be a point. How can people afford to go?
that's true.
The
Well,
games, the tickets and all that. It's gonna be, I don't know. I don't know where it's going. I may be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong saying it, but I don't know where this is going. This is crazy.
Well, here's what we have to understand, though, Dennis. Once upon a time, the NHL had to buy airtime to get on national TV to begin with. They were
Right.
dead broke. Really, when you think about it, Gary Bettman had to lobby his way to get on. I mean, I understand that the league is growing and you can afford to bring this down. I'm not sure. I don't. I understand the logic behind this one either.
Yeah,
I really
I just
don't.
I just don't get it. We got some older guys, some old guys in that I know that have played the game are struggling, and they get nothing. They get nothing out of this. And I believe some of this revenue that these guys make, and with all this off ice stuff and that, there should be something set up for not only myself but other players that have who paved the path, the
Right.
path for these young players, and all this money today, that there should be something set up. Okay, I am okay. That's fine. You're going to go 113 million. Well, why don't you give 20 million to ex NHL players?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. GMT again. I don't know how many times we're gonna have GMT on all night. I really don't care. I'm not keeping tabs. But I think it's a good point that the league should award the alumni players for bringing the game to its point. But here's the
If you
thing.
say if you say something to them, they're going to blackball you.
Yeah, of
If I
course.
say something to the NHL and say, hey, listen, I'm struggling. I pretty much need, and I'm not the only one. I'm on behalf of other players. They're gonna blackball you. They're gonna say, yeah, forget
Yeah,
about it.
wrong sport, my friend. You go to
Yeah.
the you go to the NFL, MLB, and the other ones. They take care of you. But here's the thing that I have to mention. Okay, and that's it. Very important thought. Think about the current NHL TV contract. Okay,
Right.
number
Right.
one, you have TBS. Okay, I'm not talking about the Canadian stuff. That has nothing to do with where
Okay.
this is going. Okay, hang
Right.
with me on this. All right, hang with me. You got
Right.
TBS and you have ESPN, and of course you have ESPN, which is owned by Disney, which allows ABC. But that's all you really basically have. You have
Right.
cable pretty much running it. So it's not like, obviously the game is better exposure with those two networks. You have excellent announcers and all that. I get that.
Right.
Okay. But it's not like they have mega contracts where you have all the major networks and you have two cable connected to a network because of Disney.
Right.
I don't know
Right.
if that necessarily warrants the kind of thing where this salary cap is going to necessarily particularly go up.
Mhm. I
You
don't.
follow where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I do a little bit. I just it just seems that the other sports are pretty much um, are covered by all their TV packages and everything. You look at the football. Yeah, there's
Right.
only eight games at home, and I drove by that Buffalo Bill Stadium. Boy, that's beautiful. That new
Yeah.
one, Highmark, whatever it is. I was in Buffalo watching a game with friends on McCormick's Irish Pub, and I drove by. But that was beautiful. But they only need they don't even have to put a person in the building to make money. They don't
Oh, wow.
because the TV rights, the TV
Exactly.
packages they have for each team. The NFL has done it's number one. The sports, whatever you call it, franchise or sports that has unbelievable TV packages for their owners. And there's only eight games or nine games, whatever, depending on playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, you have a 17 game schedule, soon to be 18 game schedule. Well, it's not a matter if, it's a matter of when that happens. They're
Right.
building their international market up like you don't believe. And it's ironic how you say the NFL because their schedule at least is actually the night,
Mhm.
anyways.
I know
And
the
they get
NHL. I know the NHL has packages, contract packages with TV rights and all that, but I don't think they get a lot of money.
exactly. That's my point. Again, GMTA. You know
Yeah.
why I say that? Because now we're only talking about the American rights, Dennis. Okay, I'm not going to talk about
Right.
the Canadian rights, which I don't know how much they're valued in terms of the revenue streams here, in
Right.
terms of what the overall big net picture is what I'm talking about. So again,
Right.
I'm going to beat this GMTA up until I beat it to the wall. But the reality of the situation is, you're right. We're talking about Canadian contracts are all well and good for the people north of the border, but what are they going to do for the American? Maybe a little bit. But again, I alluded to this, and I'll say it again. You've got TNT/TBS, you know what I mean, and ESPN, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah. You're
And
right.
then
You're
you have
right.
ABC. You don't have all these other networks. One bang, 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 bang. You don't have that. And that's why, at some point they're going to have to be a little smarter. All right, we understand growing the salary cap a little, but this league was dead broke and they had to buy their airtime. Let's not lose sight of that.
Right. Right. You're exactly right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, a few more topics. Show moving along really well. Okay, the
Good.
Maple Leaf really well. In fact, you know what we're going to do in the future, Dennis? You and I are going to do some more one-on-ones, and I'll have other things I want to do as well if you're interested. and this is a good test case here. That I always knew you and I could do pretty well on our own, anyways. But I have other projects that we're going to talk about when you get down to Florida. How's that, my friend? To try to market your book. But
Sounds great.
let's continue going on. The Maple Leafs general manager John Chayka shuts down the idea that Austin Matthews' future is having an impact on the firing of Craig Berube. None, zero. And he waited on the hiring. So here's the thing. You know what I think of that? BS. I don't buy that for 1 minute. I think that has everything. I think the Maple Leafs are in desperate mode right now to keep Austin Matthews, and they thought they had to make this move. Berube will bounce back, but I don't believe a word coming from this Chayka guy, considering the way he unceremoniously left the Arizona Coyotes.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about this guy. I just know there has not been a lot of positive things going on with him, like from Arizona and all that.
Right,
Um, for and for the Leafs to, of course he tells, thank Burby for what he's done, him and his wife, what they've done in Toronto and all that kind of stuff. Good luck in the future and all that kind of stuff. And when a new GM comes in and they're gonna make their changes and no matter who's behind the bench and they're gonna want to bring, as I said earlier, they're gonna want to bring in their own guys or whatever you call it. They hired Mr. Sundin, who
right,
of course played for Toronto Maple Leafs captain and took all their money and took off back to Sweden instead of sticking around Canada. So I'm kind of like, there you go. You've got Vancouver. You've got the Doublemint twins there, and
right,
and then you've got another Swede running the hockey opera, Sundin in Toronto. So what is it with these Swedish guys? Do they have power over getting hired in positions?
right,
What do they know differently than other people? And that's my question. How Toronto is going to be with Sundin as kind of their main hockey guy.
right,
I would have hired, Dougie Gilmore, or I would have hired Darcy Tucker. I would have hired some tough, aggressive type of individual to work with my players
right.
on a professional way. Sundin was a kind of a goal scorer, a little soft player. And I think that's what's going to happen in Toronto. They're gonna release. Are they going to let Matthews go? I mean, it might work out, and they can get a couple players for Matthews, a draft pick or
Right.
whatever. Same with O'Reilly, the Riley on the blue line. His
Right.
time is done, but he's still not a bad defenseman. His time is done in Toronto. So they've got a lot of decisions to make there, and their lower six is not much. They're going to struggle. I believe they got goaltending issues.
Right.
They've injured all the time. They've signed them to big, so they've got some big decisions to be coming up here for this season. They got Mr. Domi. They got him, give him $4 or $5 million for 25 million for 5 years or 4 years. And one year he didn't get his first goal for 20 something games. So, I mean, they've made some bad decisions over the years and they've got to, I don't know. I think everybody wants Toronto to do well. There's no doubt about it. Everybody wants Toronto Maple Leafs to be a good hockey team. But the way they're going, no.
Yeah. And here's the
Sorry.
thing. I'll double up on that. Number one, I'm going to ask you another question. I'm really curious. Okay. I've been thinking about this all day, and that's it. I'm not sold on Chayka. I'm going to tell you right now, the way his unceremonious exit in Arizona was bad. I'm not going to get into specifics because it's really not necessary. But do you think the fact that he ended up getting the job because really nobody wanted it? Do you
That
want to
that
take over that
as
situation? That's a mess.
as I say earlier, it's a job to be hired to be get fired. I
Right.
mean, I think that's where some guys, were probably really good GM opportunities, and they decided that, well, maybe I really don't want to be in that situation. I know that if things don't go well, they're going to look at me and fire me. So yeah, I'll get my money and stuff like that, but I don't want to be sitting on a hot seat and wondering, well, did I make the right move? Did I make the wrong move? Did I bring in the wrong guy? Did I bring in the right guy?
Yeah.
And I don't. Whereas being hired as a GM or a director, or president of hockey operations in a different team, say Seattle or say Utah or say Boston, whatever, it may be a little different. Maybe a little different. You have some flexibility and all that. I don't think you have a lot of flexibility being hired by the Toronto Maple Leafs, especially with this Mister Pele. Who is he? Think he is?
Yeah.
That kind of running the MLSE show there. Wait to
Well,
see what happens. That's all my. That's what I think about
yeah,
it.
actually, I'm going to double up with you on that because you're talking about a team that's owned by Maple Leaf Sports
Right,
Entertainment. So you got
right,
corporate running this operation. So they're going to
right,
delegate. It's not like the Green Bay Packers, Dennis, where they're owned by the public, okay, but yet they've got good football people in place and everything is okay and they're
right.
structured. This situation in Toronto is anything but that, and it's evident because they haven't won anything since '67. So what I'm saying is you're under a big microscope, and I mean a big, big microscope in the number one media market in all of Canada, and they haven't gotten it right since '67. The longer this thing goes on, the uglier it gets, and that's why I
Um,
was, and that's why I'm pinning you down on this again. Even though we talked about earlier, Dennis, I just want to reinforce the fact that we both agree on the fact that that's a job nobody wanted. I'm wondering whether Chaka got it the job because nobody wanted it, and he got it. That's the only thing that I can rationalize with this thing, and I mean rationalize it. Nobody wanted it, so you might as well give it to this guy.
well, there's two guys that that a lot of people talk about that they should have hired, and I was with one of them a few weeks ago. Not even that, 10 days ago. We talked a little bit about it, and that's Dale and Mark Hunter.
There you go.
They're that are running London Knights Junior. That why would they leave there? They've got a great golden opportunity. They make $2 to $3 million in a junior team. Probably the only one. They're probably worth around 50 million to sell that team. So and Mark Hunter would have been. He did apply for the job a few years ago when they gave it to Dubious. Mark Hunter did apply at that time, and they didn't hire him. There would be a different situation if Mark Hunter was the GM. He knows his players. He knows how to get players. And it's a young man's game. And he knows all the young hockey players. And he even knows about my grandson who's 14. Miles Maruk is a good goal scorer living in Minnesota. So, I mean, I'm just saying there is there hasn't been a lot of positive things said about this new group that what's his name, Chaka.
Yeah,
uh,
right, exactly.
Don, there has not been a. I don't know if you've heard any positive. Let me know. I have not heard a positive thing about him.
No, I haven't. That's why I'm asking you because I haven't heard
No,
anything positive. Here's the
no,
thing.
no, no.
Here's the thing.
The fans are and the newspapers, everything. Yeah,
Well, here's what happens. If you have a GM that wins there, okay, I'm going to take this to baseball. Now I have a reason to go baseball here for a moment. So hang with me for a second, okay, Dennis? If you have a GM that wins
yeah.
in Toronto, you put him in the class of Theo Epstein, who won World Series championships with the Boston Red Sox and the Chicago Cubs. Then all of a sudden, this guy's getting a statue out of wherever they're playing.
Well,
I'm talking. Hold on, hold
I
on.
heard
I'm talking.
he's
Let me hold on.
he,
I'm almost there. Theo
oh,
Epstein, okay,
Theo,
okay.
yeah.
Boston Red Sox and Chicago Cubs. If anybody wins there, and we had 9 million people in there, and they haven't won, if he does, that's it. Then you're talking Theo Epstein territory. Sorry about to interrupt you, but I had to get that one through. Go ahead.
No, that's good. Yeah, the only thing I saw that he's an analytic guy, and I agree a little bit on that. But you don't score in the top corner on a stationary bike. You know what I mean? And you have to, those things are okay, but they're not gonna no. So I was disappointed when I heard that they hired him because of his background with analytics and stuff like that. He's going to be able to pinpoint our guy is going to be in the top of the circle. He's going to shoot. He's going to score, or he's going to be. No, sorry,
Sorry, Dennis, I'm not buying the analytics stuff either. Like you, I'm
no,
an old school
no, I'm
guy.
not. I don't know.
Listen, analytics takes you so far in sports, but at some point you got to know how to play and you got to have talent. And analytics doesn't quite get it done. I'm old school. You're old school. Scott
Yep.
Morgan Ross. Please be joined by Dennis Maruk here on Sports Rep. Glad to have you with us here tonight on this beautiful Thursday night. He's up in Canada. He'll be in Florida. I'll see him in about 7 to 10 days, whatever. We're going to have some fun. We're going to exchange books. We might even do a show on site. We never know. I'm glad to have my Hall of Fame or from the Washington Capitals. Dennis is my partner tonight. Dennis and I will be working on other projects as well. But we're having an excellent show. A couple more topics I want to get to. Everything's rolling really beautifully tonight. Okay, well, guess what? Chris Knobloch got fired as a head coach of the Edmonton Oilers. Is this another situation where panic strikes where you worry about Connor McDavid? Because now in two instances, you have Austin Matthews, and then you also have Connor McDavid, and now you have teams. Because I don't get this one about Chris Knobloch. Okay, obviously he knocked out the first round this year, but how do you get fired after leading a team to the NHL Finals 2 years in a row, and all of a sudden you're on the streets? Although Knobloch won't be unemployed long anyways.
Did you say Stan Bowman got fired?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people might want to think that he should have gotten fired because that
No,
situation there.
Chris Knobloch shouldn't have been fired.
Right, exactly.
No. Stan Bowman should have been fired.
Yeah.
There you go. That's my take on it. Like Knobloch and McDavid are close friends, good people. Of course, he coached him in junior and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I don't think it's in some cases you can look at your coach making the wrong calls or putting the wrong player on the line. You know, you get two of the best two of the top players in the National Hockey League on your team, and you got to look at your other players that you have on your team, and those are the ones Stan Bowman brought in or whatever, or made trades, whatever. And I believe that those players did not like Hyman. He got hurt. He had 50 goals one year, and he didn't have as many. He got back playing. You know that hurt him. But then look at who else did the scoring. Who else? McDavid was terrible in the playoffs. Draisaitl was not the great. So their two top players were not really outstanding. And so then what do you have after that? And I think that's what shows. And their goaltending. Oh my lord, their goaltending was, and I feel bad. And their defense was not really good. Bouchard, who he must have been a forward. The way he's not the greatest on defense, but he's good. He's okay. He's not the best, but he's still good. And they jumped all over him. They brought in Paul Coffey. They brought in Paul Coffey again to try and straighten things out. Why did they do that? Why did they bring in Paul Coffey? Well, I don't know. I'm a believer of let's play the game. Let's work on finding the right players, enough players, and the teams that are successful, teams that are winning in the playoffs now are their team. It's a whole team. They've got third and fourth line guys scoring, third and fourth line guys playing well, not the first and second line guys, playing, the greatest. The only reason why, because they're being checked a lot. The top players on the team and they don't have a lot of room. Where the third and fourth line guys, they're not being checked. They have a lot more room, so they can go as hard as they can. And those are the ones that will make your team successful in hockey. Is your third and fourth line guys. Edmonton didn't have that. And so you look through their teams that lost, they did not have that. And I think that you don't fire a coach because if he's the one getting the players, then that's a different story. But I don't think he was. It comes from your general manager.
Well, here you have hit a
There you
couple
go.
bullseyes.
There you go.
You got a couple bullseyes. Number one, Ken Holland should never have left in the first place. I thought they did a good job bringing him back to respectability.
I think you're right, but I think time was due for him too. Time was
Okay.
due. Yeah, that's Kenny.
Well,
Kenny's a great man. It was time for him to move on. Yes, it was.
but I think he's an upgrade over Stan Bowman.
Yeah, I've never been a Stan Bowman fan, so
He's,
sorry. I know his dad, Sky, all that. But I mean, there's only one Scotty Bowman, and there's only one Stan Bowman. Stan can't be Scotty. And that's how I look at it. I just don't. I look at wherever you're getting the players from, who's doing the job. That's the one you got to look at.
oh, listen, Ken Allen didn't make the worst move in the world. All he did was take the Wayne Gretzky route. Okay, he went from Edmonton to Los Angeles with the Kings. It's not like the weather isn't better there, anyways. But Leon Draisaitl certainly could have obviously been a little. But it all comes down to the GM. You got to get your coach of players, and I think that,
Well,
in my opinion,
they both of them, like Leon, he said, we have to be better.
right,
Not only as players,
right,
but as management. He even
right.
come out and said it, and Connor McDavid said the same thing. We got to be better as in management as well as he agreed with Leon. So we're not good. I think that just goes to show, why'd you fire the coach? Now you're going to bring in another coach that who are they going to bring in? Cassidy? Because of his record, I don't think they're allowed to talk to him right now.
No, not for another year. I think
Another
Vegas
year.
went out
He's
there
under
and denied him.
contract. One more year. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd love to go in there and coach the two of the best players in the league, the top five. But I'd be really working on my bottom six.
Right. Yeah, I'm
There you
with
go.
you. Yeah, well, the bottom line is this. I mean, Knobloch is the scapegoat in this whole thing. I really do.
That's right.
Again, first of all, you lead a team to back-to-back finals, and then 1 year you get ousted in the first round, and you're gone. I mean,
Yeah.
that isn't a scapegoat. Explain to me what the heck the word scapegoat is.
Yeah.
I think he at least deserves it. Huh?
You're absolutely right. I mean, I think what happened was this management and this, we all got to be better, players and all that. I think it got out publicly, and Bowman had to make a decision and do something.
Well, I'll say this: he deserved another year. Not, and I don't like the
I
end result.
I agree. GMTA. There you go.
Oh, look at this guy.
Two minds think alike. There you go.
Teaching him the broadcasting business. Now I got GMTA tattooed onto his head, or I'll autograph it in my book. Actually, that's what I'm going to do. We exchange books there. Yeah, I just don't like the way things unfolded at Edmonton. And I think the goaltending in Edmonton has
Look,
been atrocious the last few years, anyways. And all of a sudden, but Knobloch won't be unemployed long. Let me tell you, he won't.
yeah, I think you're 100% right there. He'll be somewhere, whether it's junior or whether it's back with the NHL. As I say, once you're in that circle, I've
Yeah.
always said it. You're going to find a job somewhere because they're going to hire and fire. They're going to fire coaches. Things aren't going well with teams, and they go, geez, well, he coached in Edmonton. He coached two of the top players. We've got to hire him. So he could be somewhere. Yeah.
All right. Final
He
topic of
could
the
be
night.
going there. I bet he could be going to the Minnesota Wild. You watch.
Oh, I wouldn't be
I bet the Wild hire him.
Well, hey, listen, I got news for you. He's a heck of a coach. He
You
is.
watch. You watch. The Wild just got beat out by a great hockey team, Colorado Avalanche. But I don't know. I'm not big on John Hines.
Oh, you're
So
not.
no, I'm not. And I think that Billy Guerin makes moves fast. And if Knobloch's available, I bet you watch.
All right, well, you know what? I'm going to go to another baseball analogy because I've been covering the sports forever. Many years ago in Detroit, okay, I'll never forget the time when,
Who was pitching?
huh?
Pitching in Detroit.
I'm not talking about pitching. I'm talking about
Okay.
managing in this situation.
Management. Okay, go ahead.
Also, get there. No, because it goes back to what your analogy is with the Minnesota Wild. Many
Okay.
years ago, the Detroit Tigers had to make a decision. They had a guy named Les Moss was their pitcher, but when Sparky Anderson became available, they snapped him up. And how did that turn out? He ended up winning the World Championship here.
There you
And
go.
yeah, so that's my point when it comes to connecting the dots to make you even more valid about your Wild. I'm trying to build you up like an agent, Dennis. I'm trying to
Thanks,
validate your Minnesota Wild, Dennis.
thanks,
You get it?
thanks, thanks, agent.
No problem. I'm doing that. I'm trying to make it even better. I'm saying
Thank you.
that because Sparky got hired in Detroit, that your man Knobloch's going to be out there in Minnesota and making you your argument, as they say, debate issues even better. You're doing incredible, man. I'm telling you. Not only am I your mentor here in broadcasting and your agent, but I'm going to make. I don't have to make him. Between my knowledge and your expertise in the game, that's why we're a great one-two punch. But no, Sparky Anderson comes to mind in terms of what you're going to say, and that's why let me
That's
go
a
with
real
Gold.
good point. Yeah, real good point. Thank you. Yeah,
Well, you have an established manager out there for crying out loud, right? You know
right.
you can get him, coach. You snap him up and you don't think twice
Oh
about it.
yeah. Oh
Just
yeah.
because Anaheim stole Joel Quinville, even though everybody had a chance to get it, you had a lot of dummies out there. I have a feeling and I'll tell you what, when the rest of the group is back on here, you and I all know that, hey, listen, Maruk went ahead and called this.
I'm gonna throw in at you. Do you think the Toronto's gonna hire him?
I don't think he'd want that job.
I
How do you like that?
I agree. I agree, but you never know. You never know with these guys. You know.
Yeah, but the guy that seems to be lobbying for it is Peter Laviolette.
Right. Right. Peter
He's
and
lobbying
yeah.
for it. That might be a good option for him, but to answer your initial question, I don't think Knobloch would want that job.
Yeah. You're
That's
right.
just my opinion. I mean, that's the opinion I gave it to you. All right, one other note we're going to get out. By the way, Fire Up is coming up at the top of the hour. Actually, they'll be on at 9:30 Eastern time. But one other note that recently came across the wire services: rest in peace, beloved Canucks broadcaster John Garrett, who passes away at the age of 74. During his NHL career, he played with the Hartford Whalers, the Quebec Nordiques, and the Vancouver Canucks. What's your best recollection of John Garrett?
Good old Cheech. I I've known Cheech, not personally, but I mean, over the years, we went to Team Canada World Championships together. He was a goalie, and that's how I got to know him a little bit better. Funny guy, very funny, fooled around a lot. He was one of the two goalies that you could talk to a day of the game. If he was playing, you could talk to him. Most goalies can't. You can't talk to him. He was very relaxed type of goalie. Had a great career. Then he became a color commentator. He became great off the ice, working with different teams. And I think to see a guy like that go is a sad day when I saw that,
Yeah.
because I know Johnny, just that what I've heard from people, how great he is around you. He lightens up the room when things are down, regarding certain situations, and I think that's where he was just a great man, and what a loss, a big loss. I mean, in the hockey world, but not only, I would say more in off ice, as being on the broadcasting side. Everybody's kind of serious and that. John was never serious. He
Really.
knew his job, and broadcast. He knew his job, and he did a great job. But he had so much fun with it, and I think a lot of the other ones, a lot of guys that he tried to get them to relax more and don't be so uptight about you just really, it'd be no problem. And I think that's where a lot of them realize that, and will miss John because of that.
You know, rest in peace, John Garrett. Obviously, goaltenders are colorful to begin with. You put them up there as a color commentary, they're even better. And he just rest in peace, John. Meanwhile, that does it for this edition of Sports Wrap. But what we're going to do is we're going to bring in Candy Eveling for a preview of Fire Up, and then she's going to promote our book. And then Dennis and I will be doing this next Thursday night before he hits the road. We'll have more Stanley Cup. Any thoughts about the Stanley Cup right now? Or we'll wait on our Stanley Cup stuff next week when everybody else
Oh,
is back.
sure, okay, we can talk about it. Fine, whatever you want.
Yeah, we'll do that. Candy, station break and go from there because by then we'll have some more series closed out, Dennis.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. Talks about his 40-plus years in the business and how it has evolved. Old school media versus new school media. Get your copy today. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. The audiobook is also out. You can find a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. where there's a plethora of great content, so go check it out. If you'd like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to be a guest or advertise or sponsor us, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. And last but not least, you see that red subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner. Click it, like us, share us with all your friends and family, and then tell all your friends about us and turn on your notifications. Notifying you every time we go live. Monday nights is baseball night. Tuesday nights is football. Wednesday nights, you never know what we're going to have up our bag of tricks. And then Thursday nights here, it's either soccer or hockey. And then it's a plethora of great other content on what Scott would affectionately call the Country Club, which is Fire Up, which is coming up next around 9:30. We're going to talk a little bit about the NBA playoffs. We're going to be talking about the NFL schedule that just came out today. Who's playing New Year's Eve? Who's playing Christmas Day? Who's playing Thanksgiving Day? Who's going international? Tune in 9:30 to find out. Back to you, Scott.
All right. Well, what a good show we've had here, Dennis. Obviously, you are a should-be Hall of Famer, and I'm not gonna quit talking about it until I get you on. I put you in the Don Mattingly category, and when I say Don Mattingly should be in there,
That's an honor.
definitely be in there.
That's an honor. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. No, Don is a personal friend of mine, anyhow.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, I've done a lot of good stuff with Don Mattingly. We're really, really good friends, Dennis, and you and Don are definitely two genuine people that I hold in my inner circle quite a bit. So, and he's been on
the Blue Jays. He was with the Blue Jays, right?
Yeah, he was last
Just
year.
recently, they just let him go, and I was really sad to see that because he was good.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to send you a couple of my interviews with Don Mattingly recently, and I'll have you listen to them if you want to.
Okay.
Don, he's been on my show, the Motor City Madmouth Show, a few times. We go back a ways, but I'm putting you in the Don Mattingly that you should be on there, and he's been on my show. I believe in relationship building just like you do, and that's why I take my relationships really strong, and guys like you are gold as far as I'm concerned. So put that book up again. I want people to see it again.
Okay, there it is.
Dennis Maruk, people.
There it is.
Look him up on Amazon. You can buy it. He's going to have a lot of great stories in there. He'll be in my next book, Lessons from the Microphone, as well as one of my tag team partners and co-hosts as well. He's come a long way. I met Dennis through LinkedIn, and you talk about one big steal. I stole this guy off of LinkedIn, and I'll tell you what, lock me up for doing it. He'll bail me out anyway because I'm his agent, and he's instructed to get me out of trouble when I commit grand larceny, and I take the best talent that I can find, and I'm proud as heck of it. So, preview of next week's show. We're going to talk more playoff hockey next week, and one topic that we're going to talk about next week, Dennis, will be the most career playoff goals by U.S.-born players in playoffs history. I'll talk about that a little bit, and we'll spend more time updating the playoffs as more series will get closed out as well. So we'll save a lot of that. My goal here tonight was to make sure that, unfortunately, coaching firings overshadowed a lot of what's going on in the playoffs, and I want to make sure we address a lot of these and nip them in the bud, because we know that future shows are going to talk about replacements. We're talking about some of the big ones that got let go. So we try to keep everything in reality.
I think the score is 5-3 for Montreal right now.
Oh, Montreal's leading Buffalo 5-3.
Yeah, in Buffalo. Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe your Canadian team could probably snatch it down.
I'm cheering for Buffalo. So.
Are you what?
I'm cheering for the Sabres. I like the Sabres. Yeah.
Well,
I hope Sabres in Anaheim. I tell you.
I'm pulling for Buffalo, but did you know this? That they're actually in the process of tearing down that old stadium now so they can have a parking lot ready by the time the Bills opens up.
I know. That is a beautiful big stadium. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've heard. But they're actually in the demolition process of the old one. Just so you know.
Right. For parking, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I noticed that stuff.
It's right there. It's right there, right beside each other. Yeah.
How far are you located from Buffalo, anyways?
Oh, about 2 hours. Yeah, about 2 hours, depending on the bridge. You know, when you drive, how much you got to wait there. But we just got our Nexus card, so the other day. So we go through the Nexus lines now, which is faster. It's about 2 hours. I was hoping to go to the seventh game because we're gonna go. We got some friends in Buffalo that they want us to come down and hang out at the pub, watch the game. So it looks like Buffalo is going to have to beat them in Montreal to go to the seventh game.
Yeah, they're a great story though all year, as we talked about it on our show for sure. So, meanwhile, I get you in about 10 days anyway, so it'll be
Okay.
great.
All
But
right.
meanwhile, that does it for this edition of Sports Wrap. On behalf of Dennis Maruk, my name is Scott Morgan, off the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us here on this edition of Sports Wrap. Dennis and I will do it next Thursday night, and then with Mike and Cody should be back. If not, the two of us, 235 too. Whatever we have, we'll bring you the most updated information that we possibly can. So that does it for us tonight. Fire up is at 9:30 Eastern Time. Dennis, God bless you. And at least I know GMTA stands out firmly in your head. And I guarantee there'll be a lot more education before it's all said and done because I am your agent. Don't you forget that. We are a package deal.
Great minds think alike.
Attaboy. And you got two of them here tonight here on Sports
How
Wrap.
are you
So
doing
that's,
now? JMTA. All right.
yeah, with that cap, he's making a capital investment into that one liner, and that's a beautiful thing. So,
All right. Thank you.
well, that does it for us tonight. We'll see you next week here on Sports Wrap. Fire Up is coming up. Thank you.
Night.
All right.
Night.